Welcome to Teach Me a Lesson. I am Elliott G-B, and as always, first off, thank you so much for listening, watching, checking out the podcast. In this world that we're living in, we got everything at our fingertips, and you are choosing to spend that time here with us, and I greatly appreciate it. It means so much. If you also want to extend your support, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Grentradish, Grentradish, and you can also come see me live, come see me do stand-up. I will be at Comedy on State in Madison, Wisconsin on March 23rd, hosting for Joe, Mr. D. Dombrowski. Going to be a very great show, and I'll also be there for the rest of that weekend. So for the 24th and 25th, hosting for Jordan Jensen out of New York City. Very funny comic. Both are very funny comics. It's going to be a great weekend. Great shows all around. So make sure to get your tickets now if you're in the Madison area before they sell out, because that club is great. Hometown. Love it. Excited every time I can go back. Can't wait to be there. And they just do things right. They know how to run a show. So make sure to get your tickets now before they sell out, because they usually do and they go quick. So if you want to come out, show some love, that'd be great. Also, if you want to show some love, boom, check out the Patreon right there. Patreon.com/ElliottGB, ELLIOTTGB. That is my personal Patreon, but for $5 a month, you will get bonus content for each episode of this podcast. I gotta cut some stuff out. It's not because it's not good. We know this. We've been over this. It's not because it's not good. It's because of time. I just don't want it to be super long. I think the hour is the sweet spot. So got to cut some stuff out. But for just $5 a month, you can get bonus content, all that good stuff for this episode and for all the past episodes and all the future episodes once they come out. Of course, I don't have it now. I'm like, yeah, I can give you the bonus content now for every episode that we'll ever do ever. It's not how it works yet. Once I get this time machine going. All right, this is going off the rails. But yeah, check that out. Also, you'll get a shout out on the podcast for the new patrons that are subscribing. And for $10 a month, you also get some of my merch and all the previous stuff. But if you don't have that much, for $3 a month, you can just show your support. It would really help some of these hosting costs to get the podcast up and out to everyone, help offset some of that. So yeah, check that out. Patreon.com/ElliottGB. Also, make sure to follow the podcast on social media. We got Instagram and Twitter at TMAL short for Teach Me a Lesson Pod, and TikTok at Teach Me a Lesson Pod. Again, TMAL Pod, Instagram and Twitter, Teach Me a Lesson Pod on TikTok. And do not forget, I almost just forgot, but I didn't. Don't forget to rate and review if you are listening. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button. Elbow drop the subscribe, choke out the notification bell so you know every time we drop a new episode or a clip. Maybe some live streams in the future, who knows? But you'll know because you're subscribed on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate. You can rate now on the Spotify, 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. As always, anything below that. And just email me and we'll talk about it like adults. We don't need to hash this out in the comment section, okay? We don't need to be subtweeting each other. We're grown folks. So yeah, do that and it'll really help. Also, just share the word, spread the word about the podcast or any art in general that you enjoy. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'll go to my grave saying it. Numbers, social media numbers really mean a lot. So really, as insignificant as it seems, just a like, a retweet, a share, a follow can really go a long way. So with this podcast, with my stuff, my personal stuff, or just any artist that you enjoy in general or content, just share it, like it, spread the word. It really, it costs you nothing, and it really can make the world for someone. It can really make someone's day. It can, whatever, you get it. This room is hot, so let's just get to the episode. Great episode, very funny comic, and just all around great person out of Seattle, Monica Nevi. Very happy to have this conversation. We get into some real trippy shit, man. Some real heady universe stuff, but not in a whack, corny kind of way. It's pretty cool. I don't know. I'm hyping it up. We should just get to it. You should check it out. I enjoyed this conversation. I really hope that you enjoy the very funny Monica Nevi.
I'm old. I don't know. I turned 32 and then 2 days later sprained my shoulder at an adult dodgeball league. God damn it. It's like the most millennial thing ever. Fuck.
Damn.
I know. Well, and then I'm assuming when I was younger, it may have just been like, yeah, it'll heal itself pretty easily. But like this whole week or whatever, it's been like, don't move it. But yeah, I just thought it hurt and I'd
Yeah.
ice it, which I do anyways, when I got home. And then the next morning it was still like just a terrible pain. So I had to go to the doctor.
Yeah. That's fucking scary. Because I woke up one day like a month ago and my knee kind of hurt. And I was like, huh. And then it's just, I can still feel it, like just a little bit. And that's the thing where I'm like, oh, is this it? Is this the beginning?
Yeah, it just stays, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But damn, that's an adult dodgeball.
I know.
I'm
Which
with you
we've
though.
been playing in. So like it was this, to now be hurt after like playing for 6 months is
Yeah.
embarrassing.
That's just because you're going hard, man. You're out
I mean,
there.
honestly, that is kind of it, but still.
No, I get it. I played kickball 1 year.
Yeah. One of those type of things.
Yeah, before I moved to Seattle, and I was like, this is fucking tight because we would just drink a shit ton. I played with my ex at the time, and then like her roommate, my friend who was also a comic, and it was like his friends, and they were all like kind of serious about it, but also they like to drink. But so we would just show up and we drink 240s during the game.
Damn.
And that was when they started making them in plastic with the screw top, so you could just
There you
like
go.
screw it back on, go out
Just
there.
basically your water bottle at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. And so I'm like, oh, this is dope. And then ever since then, I'm just like, man, that kickball was actually kind of, you
I
kind of.
think kickball is like the best vibe for that too.
Mm,
You're outside, probably.
yeah, yeah,
You can drink. I don't know. Dodgeball, we don't drink before. People go out after, but I'm also like the one with well, not the one. We have a kid. And so everyone's like, we're going to go have a beer. And we're like, we're going to go to bed. Fine.
We're gonna go have a beer with the kid.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
We're going to put him to bed and then we'll have a beer
yeah,
and send you a picture.
good shit. All right,
Yeah.
well, what's your lesson? What do you want to talk about?
I'm trying to word it the best way. And honestly, when you gave me the prompt here, I have been like, well, which one is best? Like, let me think about it. Like, I really have thought about it. I've been like, what's the best way to say these things?
Yeah.
But okay. The life lesson, I think the reason I picked this one is because all the other ones that I thought of, I have not learned yet. I feel like
It's
I'm
like
working on them.
It's like your to-do list of lessons.
Yeah, but this one I feel like I've at least at times in my life really done.
Okay.
So the lesson would be to focus on feeling good or happy without any external reason. So for me, it took me a really long time, but to just be able to like sit and not think about anything else, or just, I think being present has a lot to do with it, and just being like, oh, I feel good right now. And it doesn't have anything to do with how my career is going, how a relationship is going, how any of those things are going. It really changed kind of everything for me, because when I'm stressed about other things, I know that I'm still able to feel good on my own, like regardless.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like this insane combination of things that I have to do to actually be able to do this. And the like sub lesson here is that is different for everyone.
Mhm.
I get real annoyed when people are like, well, just do this one thing, just meditate, just do yoga, do that. You'll be totally fine. This will fix everything for you. And that's just not true. Maybe it'll help. Maybe that is a thing that will really help you. But if someone says that, I think they're really trying to take advantage of you.
Really?
I do. I think if think about someone who is like, oh, just do yoga. It changed my life. And then you find out, you're like, oh, you probably fucking work for that yoga studio or something, like it's a, or because people, just take this drug or this supplement or whatever, and then you'll be totally fine. And I think a lot of those things can help, and I'm sure there's a combination that is correct for you. But for someone to say, because I've had a doctor say that before, I have a panic disorder, and I started having really, really bad panic attacks. And she was like, oh, just take this, then you'll be fine. And I was like excited about that. And I was like, well, should I, because I have Xanax, but it's for like when I have a panic attack, I don't take it every day. And I was like, well, should I keep these, just in case? And she goes, no, you're not going to need them. This will be fine. And then it did not help like at all. And so now I don't have the Xanax for when I do need it. And it like, I don't know. So it was just that of being like, this is exactly what you should do and you'll be totally fine is just not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to cherry pick is what I call it. You know, you go through things and you say, this can work for me. This won't work for me, you know, whatever. But with all the whatever, self-care, self-help, whatever you want to call it, just try some shit and don't be disappointed when it doesn't work and feel really excited when it does. I mean, I've done like all the weird stuff because I'm not really bothered by it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I kind of figured out like, okay, I need to exercise this amount. I do meditate. I do writing exercises. I do, you know, these things that actually helped, and some other things that I've tried that didn't really, you know. My physical body is a mess. And so I have to take care of that. And also, you know, I go to massage twice a month because I have like problems with my neck and stuff, you know, so things that would be affecting my ability to just feel good. But it took me a long time to like put it all together. It's a combination of, you know, CBD and antidepressants and whatever. And then you finally get to a point where you go, oh shit, I just feel good. I don't even know if that's a lesson or not, but
And it isn't. So let's start that from the top, okay? And let's really focus this time, all right? No, I totally get it. It's that like that kind of one size fits all mindset, you know? And I think especially with the doctor thing, that's funny because if I had, now that you say that, I never like thought about this, but now that you say that, if I had a doctor that had that kind of energy, that enthusiasm, just like, no, this is it, you're fine, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I get that you went to medical school and all that, and like maybe you've seen this before, but like usually they're just like, all right, well, let's try this. Like I think that's the key word. If they don't say try, if they're just like, no, this is gonna work, I'm like, yes, I don't think it's gonna work.
That's the best experience I've had with either a doctor or because I have what do you call it, like a naturalist kind of thing too. And with him, he's always like, okay, let's try this for a little bit, see how you feel, like let me know how you're feeling, then we'll change how much or try something new. And honestly, sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel great, and he's like, all right, well, let's try this anyways.
Yeah
But I understand that's different than a cocktail of medications when you just put different vitamins and shit involved, but you know, because it's not gonna kill anybody
yet.
So
hey,
let's just try some stuff.
Yeah, let's just give it a shot, you know? Like what's the worst that can happen? Let's just do it. Well, what's a quick backstory on you for people that might be unfamiliar?
Oh, well, I am stand-up comedian from the Seattle area. I played basketball in college and then started stand-up about halfway through because I got hurt. Couldn't play anymore. And then I lived in Los Angeles for 3 years, and now I'm back in the Northwest. And actually, I think this lesson really came at the end of probably the last year I lived in Los Angeles. So, because that's a place where a lot of things are told, at least, to be based on your external success. You know, like it needs to be how your career is going is very important. And even if you're really good at not focusing on that, everyone else isn't. So, it was my way of coping with just the pressure, I guess, of being there in my career and maybe deciding what I wanted and what was best for me versus what other people were telling me I should do. And so I did start to read, which I read an embarrassingly low number of books my entire life prior to this time. I think I had fully read like front to back covers without skipping anything or whatever, probably 4 books. And I have a bachelor's degree.
Let's go.
So that year, I don't know what happened, but I just kind of dove into a lot of the self-help stuff that was either based in like art, I did the Artist's Way stuff and the War of Art. Is that what it's called? Yes. Yes, the War of Art, not the Art of War, the War of Art. And some other, what is it? Law of suggestion and meditation stuff, the Four Agreements, like all pretty classic self-help type of stuff. And I think that's where the cherry picking part came from too, was to just be like, some of this is insane and goofy and I don't like it. But some of it is good and I can, or at least some version of it is helpful or applicable to my life. So yeah, but it's a lot of work, not to be like, good fucking luck. But, it took me a long time and it was lucky that I was single, on the road a lot, alone most of the time. And that it gave me the time to really like try some of these things. I mean, I had this like pretty strict routine of waking up, writing immediately without looking at my phone or anything. He's like writing exercises. It wasn't anything, focused, but then meditating, then working out before I would ever look at my phone or computer or anything. And so, which is a lot to do. You can't do that. I can't do it now with a family. I have a different schedule, but yeah, our son wakes up at 7:30 to pee and then has some dumb question. And I'm like, God damn. So it's hard to meditate during that time. Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of my backstory, but it was interesting because in the midst of kind of figuring out this lesson was where I started to figure out, more focused on what I wanted my life to look like a little bit more, which is a really hard thing to do in any industry when they're telling you what would be best for you or what you should do, or, so if you do this and focus on just feeling good just because you feel good, then what they think is much less important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Man, you like answered 3 questions in one right there. I dig it. No, I dig it. It's perfect. Okay. Yeah, it definitely, I mean, I'm in LA right now and I feel like everyone says your first year is the worst and I'm coming up on year 2. And I'm like,
well,
I think I'm
win at a weird time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did show up May of 2020, so right when everything was really popping off, and so now that things are opening back up, I feel like okay, now I'm getting that first year experience of having to deal with.
So now it's hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now we're hitting the rough patch. We're really hitting it. But no, I totally agree. Where it is the perfect place to, I guess, kind of force you to find your sanity or find that routine, because if you're not level-headed about it, it's so easy to just get swept up and be like, I got to do this, I got to do that, and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But then I
think the hardest part of this one is remembering that it is different for everyone. Whatever is going to make you able to just feel good on your own is going to be different for you. And LA is one of those places, or just our industry in general is one of those places where everyone wants to tell you how to feel good, how to have your career go the best, how to whatever. They have this idea, even fucking audience members or whatever. They're like, have you ever thought about being on SNL? No, I haven't thought about it. Everyone has this idea of what they want you to do without ever asking I'm sure they ask, but I don't know if they have the intention of being like, yeah, that's a great idea or whatever. And all of this comes with a huge amount of just flexibility with yourself and forgiveness with yourself, because you are just trying shit and seeing what happens. And so when you can have this type of mindset, I guess that the most important thing is to still feel good. Then the other parts of our industry that are very good at making you feel bad don't matter as much. If you don't get the audition or the show doesn't go well or whatever, the creamer doesn't want to sponsor you, whatever, then you still know you're okay no matter what.
it really, you're kind of like taking, I guess to really dumb it down, but you're taking your happiness back and figuring it out, like you said. And it's funny because we kind of talked about this when Taylor Clark was on, first episode actually,
Nice.
about kind of cherry picking what works for you and figuring it out, but then also allowing yourself kind of that forgiveness and kindness to, if you slip out of that routine, instead of beating yourself up about it, ease back into it, but also understand, okay, yeah, I slipped out of it, but at least now I know what will help me, what makes me feel good, so then I can get back to it, instead of being like, fuck, I feel so lost, or I'm so stressed and this and that, and I don't know. It's like, okay, yes, I tried this thing and I kind of slipped out of it, but now at least I know there's something out there that works for me. And going through all the self-help books and being like, all right, yeah, this, I don't really know if I'm down with this, or, you know, like I meditate, I'm kind of trying to get up to 2 times a day, but also I'm like, 1 in the morning works for me, and it feels good, but I still can't do it every day. But instead of being like, fuck, I didn't meditate today, and I really should have, and I broke the streak and this and that, I'm just kind of like, well, it's a different day, and there's different things happening, and I can still get back to it. I can still do it, but I guess all is not lost, kind of having that mindset of.
Which I think I used to get into that really easily of like, well, I didn't work out today, so now the whole thing's fucked and I just never work out again. You know, like it's not in the grand scheme of things. If you had a calendar that was a month and you skipped 3 days that month, that's still a fuck ton of days that you did what you were supposed to do. You know, like you're doing good. You're doing good, you guys. Everybody's doing fine.
If you're listening to this podcast, you are in the top 1% of people on how you're doing. On the doing scale, you're doing great.
I think the other part of this lesson specifically that really I needed and kind of came from this is that what everyone else is doing doesn't affect me, and therefore I have to stop being so competitive or jealous or hung up on not getting things that somebody else got or something like that, because I know that I still have the ability to feel good even if something didn't happen. And so then I have an easier time feeling good for other people. That sounds bad.
Wow,
I really never felt good for anyone else. But I think that's, I mean, even at any type of job, whatever, somebody else gets a promotion or gets recognized for something at your work and you felt like you were working hard and all those things and didn't get it, as long as you can keep in mind that you have the ability to still feel good, even though Jessica got the corner office or whatever.
Fucking this is typical Jessica. Just typical Jessica behavior. Getting things.
Getting stuff. God.
Would you say this is kind of like separating not yourself from your work, but your self-worth a little bit from your work?
Definitely from my work. I think it's almost separating. So this might get a little too hippy dippy, but I struggle sometimes to think about what human beings were supposed to be doing and compared to what the fuck we're doing now. You know, on a base like animal level, what we were supposed to be doing, just surviving, being outside, you know, those types of things. Like, and now we are so stressed about something we made up. It wasn't even real before, you know. So that actually really grounds me in almost being able to separate myself from the reality we've created and just my like physical body reality, because I am still in control of that and can feel good. And for some reason, it's comforting to me to know that I could just fucking walk into the woods and never talk to anybody again.
Always an option. It's always an option.
You know,
as long as there's woods.
That's funny because sometimes when I first started stand-up, I would always have like a set list on the stool to like look at, you know, and then eventually a lot of people were like, well, you shouldn't be reading off. People can tell you're reading, you know. And I was like, well, I'm afraid I'm going to forget. And they're like, you're not going to forget. And somebody was like, just put it in your pocket. Just write it down, put it in your pocket. Then you know that it's there. And then I never once like pulled it out and looked at it or anything, but the idea that it was there. So I think the idea that I one can just feel good if I need to in my physical body, but also could just walk into the woods and fuck off if I wanted to as well.
You got that parachute of just walking into the woods and never talking to anyone
never
again.
talking to anybody again.
That's hilarious.
So that's yeah. So maybe, I mean, yes, separating from my work is something that's a little bit more new. I've definitely in the last couple of years kind of created a different life than I had before. You know, I have a house and a family and all that stuff. And so that is helpful with the work stuff because there's other things to think about and work about. But also my ability to just separate from the reality we've created.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot too lately. And
walking into the woods.
Yeah, why? But now it's funny because I'm like, okay, now I know I got to pick the woods because there might be someone already in there. You know, you don't want to encroach.
True. I know that the way things are going, the woods are going to be full real soon.
You heard it here first. The woods are the new city. Okay,
just woods,
get your fuck the metaverse. Get your spot in the woods. Okay, and camp out. No, I've been thinking about that a lot too, and just kind of like. So I had COVID. It was fucking me up for like 2 weeks, and I also have roommates, and so I'm like, well, I'm sitting in my room for 2 weeks, and when I leave, it's like I'm wearing a mask and gloves and all that shit. So it felt very surreal.
Like, just using the bathroom. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, get the fuck back in. I still had shit to work on. I try to do a little bit each day, but then for the most part, I'm like, I'm just going to take some edibles and just hang out. And there were definitely moments where I'm like, what is existence? What is this? And I've thought about it before, but I think like really now, and I hate to be like with everything going on in the world, but like with everything going on in the world and climate change and this and that, I'm just kind of like, trying to be realistic. Like, what does the future hold? Versus what we've been told in this country, at least, what our future will be, and then how you got to set it up. And it's like, all right, realistically, looking at what we're working with now, I don't think a lot of those goals are achievable.
Yeah.
And also, what the fuck is the universe? Like, really trip it out. Be like, what is the
full
point?
Edible right here.
There's that's what I'm like.
There's something that came about during the same time when I was kind of reading a lot and coming to terms with things that for me was because everything was very uncertain and that was stressing me out a lot. And then it kind of came to me that uncertainty is good because there's still infinite possibilities. If you are certain of what's happening now, it could be what's happening now, which is shitty, but being uncertain about the future, it can still be hopeful, basically. And I know that I often take like a very dark look at positivity because I am a very positive person, but I have this like, I guess basically the solace of knowing you can give up is a weird positive thing that I think like you could just give up. You could just stay in your room and drink all the time and whatever. And you can make that choice. And so doing anything is better than that, maybe. Or if it gets too bad, you always have, it's going to be fine is what I guess it all comes down to in my head. It's like, it's all just going to be fine, especially if you focus on this, like I don't know, be selfish. It's an Ayn Rand thing to be like, you're the most important thing in the world. Right. So if you eat today, then you've solved world hunger, that kind of thing. Which is an extreme look at that. But I think it's written that way to make you go, well, that's a little bit too crazy. But I kind of understand me being the only important part.
Yeah.
The universe part gets, that's another thing, right? It's an anomaly that we exist, let alone stress about the things that we stress about. Yeah. So even to be an important person here now in the grand scheme of life, of the universe, you're literally nothing. I mean, that's not to be I don't know. I guess it all just keeps going back to me for like, why not feel good just because nothing matters.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that is like the dark optimism of that's just my personality, but that's like, yeah, what it's nothing really matters. It doesn't. And then the only thing you kind of have control over is what you do with your own self. So why not take the time to figure out how to make that part feel good? It's crazy. Like I'll and I don't think meditation is necessarily the fix all for everybody, but
No.
I go every morning now. I take our son to school and then I go run near the water here in Tacoma, which is very pretty, and I feel like a rich lady, even though we don't live there, but whatever. I'm just like, just doing my normal jog. Hey, Steve. Um, and then I sit and meditate on the top of this like little hill that looks right over the water and stuff. And it's funny because sometimes I'll sit there, just some like music on, and just smile like a crazy person and like laugh, but not on purpose, just because like I just like physically feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try and just go, well, that was crazy. Like I could just sit here and feel, so then the rest of the day when these other things come up, I just remember like, well, I have the ability to do that. And like, even if I'm frustrated or spiraling in my thoughts, I can still go back to that the next day or whatever.
Go back to your laughing hill.
I laugh at, yeah. And I'm sure I look insane, but
They're like, God damn it, she's back.
Oh, there she is.
Still laughing.
Giggling on the top of the hill.
No, it's really funny that you say that, because like recently I've realized, not from like a specific event, but I think I just gradually have shifted into that same kind of mindset, but like not holding on to things. So I've realized if someone kind of does something to piss me off and they apologize, well, first off, if something happens, I'm way less like attached to it, and I'm more of like not like angry that it happened, because I'm just like, well, I mean, we're here, so like, what is sitting here being pissed off gonna do to make it any better? Nothing. But also, if someone does something but I'm like, what the fuck? And then they're like, oh, my bad, like I don't really, then I'm kind of like, all right, well, yeah, now it's over, like you get it, not to say like you need to learn your lesson, but it's like, all right, you get it, so like, yeah, it's squashed, let's like move on and kind of figure it out.
Yeah, my grandparents always said that about, because they've been married for like 60 years, like the American dream, whatever, bought a house, had 2 kids, that type of thing, met in high school, that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And they still like each other for the most part, and so everybody's always really interested in that and how, and they don't really fight. And so I'd asked her about it a little bit, and she just said, what is the point of fighting when 20 an hour from now you're not even going to remember, like it's not, which is true. I'm very much like, I know that I get upset in the moment, and then if I give myself time, it is like, at least I can be more rational about it or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, she also said they just don't talk to each other much, so that's why it's lasted so long. But
can't be mad at someone when you're in the woods by yourself.
You don't talk to me. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, most of this like reading and stuff and kind of making changes came to me when I was going through a breakup, which I didn't really date much at all for like the first 8 years I did stand up. Mm-hmm. And then I had this breakup, which wasn't really that long of a relationship, but I was, upset about it. And I knew that I hadn't had the relational experience as an adult, because I'd only really dealt with breakups as a young person. And that was just full of emotion and I hated it. And so I just, probably why I didn't really date. But so then going through this, I knew I needed to behave differently, because a younger version of yourself would be like, be crazy, go find them, go yell at them, whatever. Yeah. But I knew I couldn't do that. And so that's kind of what pushed me into being able to, even though this really bad thing that maybe, it's like that gut wrenching, loss of something is happening in your life. If you can feel good during that time somehow, that's pretty crazy. So that was actually where it all started, was being able to have some sort of pain that's going on and being like, how do I separate myself from that?
That makes me think of something I've like started doing too, it started with comedy, is with the comparison thing, or if I feel, slighted, like I didn't get booked, or this person, kind of hasn't, I don't know, whatever. If it's something like that, or someone gets this spot that I wanted, allowing myself to be, bothered and feel, oh, I wish I had it or whatever, but thinking about it in the sense of, okay, is this big enough to make me quit?
Right.
10 times out of 10, no. Or I should say,
No.
9 times out of 10, it's a no.
Well, I did quit once, but
about
back.
once a week I'm quitting, but I'm back. I'm coming back. But then thinking about it now, it's, you kind of think, okay, is this big enough? No, okay, whatever. So then you move on. But then after enough, if you look back after enough time, you think, okay, this has happened, and this has happened, and this has happened, and this has happened. None of it's been big enough to make me quit. So then I don't really know if there is anything, because, and then that also plays into if you find your own happiness outside of comedy. But then also I think a big part of that is creating your own kind of space. So you have those options. You don't have to go to other people to get, the validation of, oh, I can get booked, or, oh, I can, be on a podcast, or I can, do whatever. If you can kind of start your own thing, yeah, you're still going to want those things. But then if they don't come, you're like, all right, well, I still have my other shit that I'm going to do. So I got something.
That goes into that same, like, you should, let me tell you what you should do. And there's so many people, especially right now, that have created careers or fallen into careers that didn't even exist when we started, like it's not, everything changes so fast now. Like the next, I don't know. I'm going to blow up on Wordle. I don't know. But
Yo, did you guys see Monica Nevi was the word of the day on Wordle? It doesn't even fit.
Special. It's great. It just changes so fast that you couldn't possibly tell someone now if their thing's going to work or not. I mean, it's just, but then, okay. So then the reason I think about that, and maybe the comparison thing, because stand-ups are the worst about this, of being like, well, you had to have done it for 15 years before anything happened, or you had to do all these shitty open mics or whatever. And then we're like, well, what about all these assholes that are famous from a TikTok video or whatever? Like, how are we supposed to not feel resentment towards them? And the only reason is because I did all that other shit. I've been doing all that other shit for 11 years. It's a long time. So of course I'm going to resent them because they haven't been doing shit for a while. And now they're selling out clubs that I want to sell out. So of course I'm resentful, but it's because I want to do it that way. That sounds way better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I never had to do a shitty casino for $50 on a Wednesday night where no one was paying attention, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And to be financially stable just from, I don't even know what. That's where the resentment comes, is because I want what they have. And that it just doesn't have to be a certain way. Stand-ups very much are like, this is how you do it, and you got to put your time in and do all this. And I believe that makes you funnier, but I don't think you have to do it that way.
That makes me think of the student loan thing, where people are like, well, I had to pay back my student loan, so why should someone else just get theirs forgiven? And it's like, because they're not you. Like, yeah, it sucks, but like, imagine if you had that opportunity and then someone was saying the same thing before you. It is that thing.
It is. That's such an old timey, like, well, you got to do it the way I did it. I don't really understand that, because for me, people ask me about moving to LA all the time, and I'm like, because when I was younger here, everyone was like, you have to move, you have to go to LA or New York, you have to go. And I moved a lot for comedy, but a lot because I had never lived anywhere else. And I did it, and I came back, and now people ask me, and I go, if you don't want to, you don't have to. It doesn't, and it's changed a lot. I know that about what like it means for people, but I'm like, if you want to, do it, but don't do it because you think that's like the path it's supposed to go on, or whatever everybody else tells you. And it's still, the go-to for anybody, agents or whoever. They're like, well, do you live in LA? Which is now changing because so many people are moving around, but still it's, there's just no right or wrong answer to anything. And you unfortunately have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
And stand-up is just like that, and there is a little bit of a old road dog in me that's like, you got to get on the road so you can get funny and perform in these Elks lodges or whatever. It's, which you don't have to. You don't. It's fun. It's good. And I do think it'll make you better, but you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can stay in your city and only perform there and have an online presence. I don't know what your plan is, but focus on Wordle.
Yeah. Yeah. So how, I mean, we have kind of like touched on it a little bit, but how has this kind of impacted your life or your decisions going forward?
I mean, I think in reality it changed everything. I was on that path of like, I should go here and do this, and LA kind of pushed me in this direction because I just didn't feel connected to all the things that people said I should be doing. And this would happen all the fucking time in LA. I would be like, oh, I've been on the road for a month or two or whatever and just got back to my apartment. And then somebody who I either was peers with or looked up to that would be writing for a TV show or something. And they'd be like, oh, I should do that. And I'm like, no, what? Why would you have the thing we want?
Yeah.
Why are you saying you want to do what I want? Like, it made me go, no one fucking knows what they're doing at all. And so having this be the focus, I think put me more in touch with what did feel good. Maybe that I wanted to do stand-up more. I have a documentary series that I kind of created during this time where I was coming to terms with this being more of a direction that I wanted to go in, which was just making sure I feel good with what I'm doing. And that kind of told me like I liked making my own stuff. I liked non-scripted stuff. I was able to create stuff in Seattle. I actually got money to make that in Seattle. And so that was something we were always told is like, well, you can't make anything here.
Yeah.
Which is not true. And of course, I could have waited 10 years and shopped it to networks when I'm 40, but I didn't. So it exists and that's fine. And I felt accomplished in those things more so than I did with some of the stuff I was a part of in Los Angeles. Not that I didn't feel accomplished, but I think the idea of the most important thing being feeling good. And I do believe in like the energy you put out is what comes back kind of thing. And I know if I treat people well, which is another big one for me, especially in stand-up, I think it's important to be nice. I know that sounds very basic, but I do think that you get a lot of fucking opportunities when you're not a dickhead.
Yeah.
Which has worked for me, honestly. Being easy to work with and being nice to people when I do get an opportunity has led to more things, basically. But so yes, having the real basic focus be on making sure that I feel good or can feel good kind of redirected what I wanted to do, and also really put more of an emphasis on like I have really good people in my life and I wanted them around more. I like my family. That was an important part to me. And then so when I left LA, I was just on the road for a year, didn't live anywhere. And then at the end of that is when I met my now fiance, when I wet her. When I met my now fiance, which has led to a lot of, different stuff and more balance. And yeah, so it was interesting when I really kind of dove into this lesson that I do think I'm still, trying to learn fully. It really changed just a lot of stuff for me, and also how much I was taking care of myself. I think when you're younger, it's just so cool to not take care of yourself at all.
Why is that a thing? I was thinking about that the other day because I was like, man, like 10, because stuff is coming up now on Facebook. I'm 29, so stuff is coming up where it's like, oh, 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, the priorities were so different.
You could describe to me some of the things I was doing when I was 23 and I would be hungover the next day. Like it's horrific. And then I developed like this horrible anxiety and all this other stuff. And I'm like wondering where it's coming from at the time. But I'm like, oh yeah, bitch, you're not helping yourself at all.
Yeah.
And so I think once I kind of just even, I read it in a book. I couldn't even tell you what book it was, but just the idea, because it was like a meditation book, and just the idea that you could feel good, because the point of meditation is you don't think about anything else, right? So that you could feel good just to feel good. And that would kind of put you physically in a space to draw in good stuff. Once I started to focus on that, it just really redirected everything. And then also told me I needed to be taking care of my body more than I was.
Yeah.
And, my mental health. But
Yeah.
yeah, so really, I guess I did pick a good one then. I do think this really redirected my whole life.
Yeah, you're like, I think it's what I've kind of learned. I'm like, how's it affected? And you're like, oh, it's affected my whole life.
Oh, it changed my entire life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do really think, kind of to talk about meditation for a little bit, because for me, it's really helped, but in a sense of, I think it's had a bad kind of like PR team or like marketing campaigns. People are like, oh,
Yeah.
meditation, you zen out and you don't think about anything, and this and that. And it's like, well, it's really just kind of, first off, you learn your brain very quickly and just kind of how you think and what you think about and this and that. But for me, it's really helped, I think, kind of separate my body from my mind, in a sense of I can sit completely still and focus on different parts of my body. Like I use Headspace, and they talk about, feel the pressure points of whatever you're sitting on. And then I'll like kind of focus on that. And then I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty fucking cool that I can like focus on my foot and just feel that.
That's crazy, man.
But then just to,
that's awesome.
to also just like, I guess I should have started off and saying it's not that you don't think about anything. It's just that you don't get attached to your thoughts and kind of let them come in and then let them go, which for me, once I started doing that, I was like, oh yeah, this has been the issue my whole kind of life, is just always overthinking and everything that comes in, expanding on it or just letting it go in a crazy direction, and then this and that. And so getting better at it, and then just having that 15-20 minutes a day of kind of decompressing a little bit, but just being like, all right, things are going to come in, but it's just kind of going to be flowing a little bit, and it's just going to be lighter. And then taking that into life and being like, oh, I am really in my head a lot, and trying to focus on when you're doing something like cooking or whatever, like, let me actually experience this and be in the moment and like focus on how it feels when I'm chopping this thing or, mixing or whatever, instead of like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. But I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z without even realize that was happening. So yeah, I guess in that way, it's like, okay, that's really cool. And I can feel that. But then also, even just sitting there, I can still have this completely different experience in my head. And then when I open my eyes, I'm almost like, it's weird because I'm not sleeping, but I open my eyes and I feel like I did kind of like come back to reality. Cause then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm in my room and I'm just looking at my books,
It's pretty crazy. Well, so you are supposed to not be able to think of anything else when you are focusing on a body part like that. Which is why like a body scan is pretty basic, like a good way to start if you haven't ever meditated, which is just, it's basically whatever, head, shoulders, knees, and toes for adults. You kind of just go through, because I have a meditation album that I do the guided part, because I think a lot of those are kind of corny, which is like kind of how I thought of it, but mine are like dirty. It's dumb. It's
yours are raw, cool,
comedic,
uncut.
but there's a body scan on there, and it's I thought it was important to put on there because when I started to meditate a lot and really go into more of this stuff, when I would be really, really stressed or like thinking about, whatever, something that was just taking its toll on me, I would start just basically doing a body scan while I was walking. So I would walk and be like left foot, left knee, right knee, like as they were moving, and just kind of focus just right on those, just so that I wasn't thinking about what I was stressed about, and it really would help. It's just a weird And I'm sure that would be like the most present you could be, is just like, watch my feet walk,
Yeah.
but it's hard to talk to people when you're doing that. But it is I mean, and that's the goal, I suppose, is to just be present, which is why you let whatever thought's going to pull you out of being present just go by.
Yeah.
It's a very simple, hard thing to do.
Yeah. God, meditation is so fucking cool, dude. And everyone out there should try it, man. I think really it's
gonna change your life.
Yeah, we talk shit about all that at the beginning, except for meditation. That is the one thing.
You're right, though. It does get a bad like PR sometimes, which is like it's connected to a very like almost hippie culty kind of vibe where like that's the guru and the all that stuff, when it's like it literally doesn't have to do with anybody else at all if you don't want it to,
Yeah. I mean, that could be your woods. Is that your woods? Like, is meditation?
Is meditation your woods?
So you already kind of touched on books, but are there any ones you'd recommend? Any ones that really helped?
It's been quite a while since I went through this like period of reading them. I know that I read The Four Agreements and The Untethered Soul, and I liked those. But again, a lot of it was like picking things out of them. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard because I read like, do you know who Abraham Hicks is? I'm trying to think of what there's this couple and they like started meditating, and then this dude named Abraham would come visit both of them in their heads and tell them all this stuff. And it's like a really extensive book, and there's like a workbook that's with it. I didn't do the workbook, but I read it, which that one you're like, because it gives you all these different exercises basically to do. Some of them are writing and some of them are meditation based. Mm-hmm. And so a few of them I really liked. I really, maybe it's called the Key System. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Anyways, if you know, you're like, oh yeah, I've heard about this. Anyways,
yeah. That does sound really interesting.
That one's pretty weird, but I actually probably picked quite a few, but there's like a lot in there. So probably like 2 or 3 of the ones that I still do now, which is only like 4 different exercises, were from that book. So there's a lot of that stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of cherry picking, but I remember The Untethered Soul and The Four Agreements, which a lot of people talk about The Four Agreements, and I'll be honest, I didn't connect with that one quite as much, but it's pretty like basic, it's like, don't take things personal. Okay. But yeah, maybe just, I don't know, go on a year's worth of self-help book reading and you'll be fine. No.
It really is. I mean, that's what I did is when I stopped drinking, I went down a rabbit hole and just consumed a bunch, but it is a thing where you just kind of pick. You're like, okay, I did that. That doesn't really, but let me see what this one is. What are they talking about over here? You kind of just grab.
I think, basically the moral of the story is if you try one thing or read one thing and you're like, this is not for me, still try some other stuff. Like it's not just, if you try meditating one way or read, because there's other types, movement meditation, things like that. Like if you really feel like you need to be doing something, that's super helpful. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. And a lot of people in recovery will say, are you recovering? And I'm like, no. And they're like, but you're so into meditation. That's such a thing for people in recovery. And I'm like, I do know that. I do know that. And that's great. But it's, maybe I just connect with that type of person. But
well, I think it might be a time thing, because you said, when you were getting into it, you had all this time, and that's really what you need. You can't be like, all right, I'm going to find myself, but I only have 10 minutes a day.
Right.
It's like, I mean, definitely. You could, but it'll take a long time. But when you stop something, when you're in recovery, suddenly you're like, I have a lot more time now. Like when I quit drinking, I was like, look at me not sleeping until 2 every day.
And look at all this energy I have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and then I don't really have any like podcasts that I've listened to that are like about this type of thing, but my meditation album's pretty good. If you've never meditated, it's a good place to start because it is kind of silly. It's called Chill. If you just search Monica Nevi Chill, and it'll come
Yeah.
up on whatever streaming service you are not mad at or whatever.
Whatever one we're okay with today.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so silly, and so a lot of people that have trouble focusing on like guided meditations. Apparently, this has been more helpful. I say apparently because I've been told people with ADHD, and then a lot of veterans for some reason that were like never going to meditate. Therapists will contact me and go, "I have these veteran clients that like love your meditation album, and I could never help them meditate before." And I'm like, "Yeah, because they're they want to listen to jokes and not fucking being described what this bush looks like or whatever." It's yeah, I mean, it's silly and it's fun, and each like track is a different theme. I used to do a monthly on YouTube, which is how it started.
Mhm.
So it'd be like, oh, for this month, and it was like 2 minutes or whatever. But then when I did the album, they're all 5 to 7 minutes, and each one is a different, like work stress, breakup, family gathering. There's a body scan one, and then a regular like relaxation one, and then some. There's like a couple of them are like kind of pump up. There's like, I think I called it game time, but like when you're getting ready for, I don't know, a game or a work presentation or something. So they all have a different theme.
Damn, I'm gonna check because I've listened to a few of them when I think you first put it out or when they were coming out, and I was like, oh, this is really funny. But now I definitely want to revisit it now that I know, now that I know more inside baseball.
Well,
stuff,
and now I mean, that whole idea really came about during, I was already doing the monthly ones, but came about during this time of me kind of coming to terms with just being able to feel good, and how meditation I thought really helped me in that. So yeah, again, this life lesson really changed everything. But and it's got like original. I had a composer do music, so that actually like the meditation music part of it is really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Get to the rapid fire questions here. I got 3 of them for you. You can answer all of them. You can answer none of them. I mean, I hope you don't choose that one, but okay. It's no pressure.
And see you guys later. Bye.
And and click. All right. So the first one is, what do you think a key to a happy life is? Like, how old people are always like, oh, you got to drink a beer every day. But,
I mean, that would be good. No, drink 7 beers a day.
There you go.
Just kidding. I'm trying not to be too corny with it, but
live, laugh, love.
Yeah, exactly. I think being selfish. That's a weird thing to say, but I think taking your the way that you feel and making yourself really important is the key to a happy life. And I think that can still really include other people. You say, I am being selfish in that I want to provide for a family that I really love, or I want to spend more time with the people that make me feel good. That's selfish, technically. I want to change careers because it makes me feel better. I think you can still be extremely loving and caring and be selfish with making yourself feel good too. I think a lot of times we're told that you have to do all these things to be successful or be considered, whatever, happy. But then they stress you out and stuff. Like, just put your own feelings first. Be selfish.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Prioritize your happiness. And that's like a thing where people, well, it's kind of selfish putting yourself first. But then you see those people that are like 50 and then freak out and leave their family and start a new life. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, because they weren't thinking about themselves and the chain reaction.
They have a heart attack from stress, or they have, then they get divorced when they're 50 and they're like, I was never happy. And it's like, okay, well, what if you did put yourself first that whole time, or at least part of it? Then this would have been better, and probably in your career too. I mean, to be able to say, I need this, and if you can't give it to me, I'm going to leave and do something else. Sure, that sounds selfish or cocky, but you deserve it, so you should do that.
Yeah,
it's why waste the time worrying when you could take your own health in all aspects of it into your own hands and say, I don't feel good doing this, I'm going to make a different decision.
Perfect. All right. Second question. What is a simple pleasure that you have in life?
I think I have a weird thing with like symmetry, I guess, or like
Oh,
making things like even though I don't like clean all the time. But I have become a yard person since we got a house. So edging the lawn, it like, oh my God, let's just look at it. It's so fun. Edging the lawn is amazing. Yeah, one of those little like weed whacker things. You put it different ways. Beautiful.
okay.
Just be outside maybe is a
Yeah.
better
You're
answer,
like,
but
actually, I mean, just be outside. Just be outside.
specifically edging the lawn. Now it sounds kind of corny to be like garden, but that too I really enjoy in my old age, growing vegetables and stuff. It's fun.
Nice.
I
Nice.
think that has to do with that like connection of like what are humans supposed to really do, just on a base like natural level. And so
Yeah.
I do feel like that's connected to like, okay, figuring out how to feed my family. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, too, it's like we're so, and I have got to thought about this lately too, is it's like we're so disconnected from nature by design. And I think I saw it was either something on Reddit or Twitter, but someone was talking about um I think just kind of being nicer to yourself about being quote unquote lazy and taking time and this and that. That's something I've really struggled with, especially in the last 2 years, that my therapist is like, there is a pandemic going on. So like,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, yeah,
Maybe
that's right. But
give
still,
yourself a break.
someone was saying like, well, yeah, the reason we want to sit around and just eat sweets or just chill all day is because genetically that's what we've been striving for the whole time we've been around.
Yeah.
So the
It's
fact
just,
that we can
yeah.
do that now, our body's like, why are we not doing this all of the time? Like, this is exactly what we want to do.
The idea that our anxiety is based on that we don't actually have a need for the fight or flight thing anymore. Like you don't get the flight part out because there's, nothing's trying to eat us or whatever that we know, that we see at least. But
Oh God.
yeah, no. But that is like that's why like exercise and stuff helps with anxiety so much, just because you're like natural human thing was to like protect, provide, and we don't have to really do that in the same ways, at least physically, that we're like built for. So it's just like manifests in this anxiety of being like, I think I need to look out for mammoths. I don't know. But so now instead I'm going to be stressed about how many TikTok likes I have or whatever.
Yeah. The new mammoths. You hear that, TikTok? We
The
see
new
you.
mammoth.
We know what you're
Ooh,
doing.
really fun book title.
All right.
The new mammoths.
I don't know why. I just pictured like you on a beach in a blazer, but with a turtleneck. The New Mammoths by Monica
The new
Nevi.
mammoth. That's my self-help book. It's called The New Mammoths.
All right. Last rapid fire question, even though these and
Sorry, we're that fast.
no. It's I'm totally cool with it because normally I like don't chime in on them as well, but I'm like, fuck yeah, these are great points. Who's someone you want to work with in the future in any capacity? Not even that I really believe in manifestation or anything like that, but just put it out in the universe.
No, I'm trying to think of like what would be okay. This is like my most ideal, and I don't even know what we would do together. But I think our energies are very opposite. But okay, so I think everyone has a musical artist, or maybe a writer or a poet or something, where whenever they come out with something new, you're like, she was writing this about me. Were you in my head? And Florence and the Machine, for some reason, which is funny because I'm like an R&B and rap fan, but she's like rock, funk. I don't even know what you would put them in. And for like, I found her in a really tough time of my life, which was like 2008, 2009, which is when Dog Days came out. And just like loved the lyrics. Like I like music, but I'm definitely a words person. Like I like what songs say. And then as every fucking album would come out, it was like she was going through what I was going through at the time. It was just weird. But she's like, hippie. I don't know. But she's been on a couple of like talk shows and stuff that were pretty funny. She's sober now. She's in a happy relationship now, which is like more towards where I am in my life. Like, it's just odd that they've all matched up, but she has a really good sense of humor. And I would hope I wouldn't like freak out and cry or anything, because I try to play it cool when I meet people that I like, like as celebrities, but that might be the one that's like, how are you in my head? I've seen her live 9 times.
Okay.
I know. And I talked with their harp player for a while, like over Instagram, not in like talking, but just was like a friend of mine, another comedian, Brant Tobler. He was like talking to me about it. And he's like, well, just tell them you like them, like you never know what could happen. And so the other people in the band, I would message and be like, oh my gosh, you guys were so great, which is true. They're all very talented. It's like, oh, this was so great. And then they would respond and stuff, And so then I saw them at Red Rocks in Colorado, which is like the coolest venue. And it snowed while she was singing this song she wrote for Game of Thrones. So I was like, a dragon's going to come and swoop her up right now. This is incredible. And I'm like talking to the harp player about it. And he's like, well, she was barefoot yesterday. And I was like, if she needs extra socks, let me know. I will throw them up there. Like, but I just feel like the poeticness of her, and she can relate what I'm thinking in a beautiful way. And I can say what I'm thinking in a very non-beautiful, silly, sarcastic, comedic way. Those things together would be kind of cool, I think.
Nice.
I don't know what it would be, but that would be cool. So Florence Welch is my answer.
All right. Well, I'm going to send this directly to her. We're going to get that in the works.
She probably meditates. She meditates for sure.
Yeah, you guys can make a meditation album.
There you go. That'd be cool.
Part two, the soundtrack. All right, cool. Well, what do you want to plug? Where can people find you? Who are you?
Who am I? Monica Nevi, at Monica Nevi, monicanevi.com. I have a lot of live shows coming up, traveling quite a bit. So check out my calendar there. And then, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff. It's just my name, Monica Nevi. I think it's Monica Nevi Comedy on TikTok, but whatever. And then I have a stand-up album that's called Mostly Finger Guns. That's available on the internet. And so is my meditation album, Chill. And I got a ton of stuff on YouTube. I do another podcast. I do this podcast all the time. And
fuck. All right.
I know.
Carry on.
You're done. No, I have a podcast called Dumb Pitches, where I have successful people on to talk about their worst ideas. And that is also available on YouTube and all the podcast apps that you might be supporting at this current time. Yep, that's it.
Perfect. Well, Monica, thank you for coming on. Great talk. It's been awesome. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time when we're back with another great guest and another great lesson. Bye.
Bye.